Hello, thank you for joining me for Section 1 of Module 4, Client Confidentiality, Laws and Regulations. For this section, we'll just briefly go over some of the components agencies need to take into account when they are trying to maintain client confidentiality. This section will briefly review some of the processes relating to client confidentiality, but they will be elaborated on throughout the course of Module 4. Client confidentiality. I'm pretty sure you all have a pretty good idea of what client confidentiality means, but I just want to go over a brief definition just to make sure we all have the same understanding. And client confidentiality, when defined, is the principle that a business or individual should not disclose confidential information about a client to a third party. So, in accordance with client confidentiality, grantees need to work with project sponsors to develop monitoring procedures that preserve confidentiality as much as possible within the context of program oversight, as well as clear guidelines on where and how monitoring reviews should take place. So every agency ideally should have protocols in place in regards to client confidentiality, and every staff member should be aware of how to access those protocols should there need to be a refresher or maybe we forgot something. And so in the next slide, let's take a closer look at what exactly are the 5 processes that relate to client confidentiality in the work that we do. Here are the 5 processes that Module 4 will be covering as they relate to client confidentiality. So we're going to look at the provision and standards mandated by Congress under the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, also known as HIPAA. We'll look at the protocols for protecting disclosure of clients' HIV status from the time of initial intake all the way to a client's tenure in a program. We'll also be discussing procedures for this protection, should they include the use of appropriate consent forms, file maintenance and protection, and staff guidance on appropriate information sharing and avoidance of unintentional information. Consent to share information with other service providers must be given in a specific manner. Many of your agencies may already have forms in place that clients have to sign. A general or blanket authorization is not appropriate. Consider carefully what types of information are to be included in such releases. Authorization to discuss medical status may be inappropriate if it is not relevant to the services being sought. Be sure that clients fully understand the content and purpose of consent forms. If it is determined that client authorization to share information is needed, then a signed copy of this form should be placed in the client's file. An organization's policies on confidentiality should consider a range of precautions to keep client information private. To help ensure that files containing client information remain confidential, a grantee or an agency should store client files, forms, and all other identifying information in locked file cabinets and ensure that files are not left out when not in use. Many of your agencies may already have these protocols and these guidances in place, but I feel like it's always a nice refresher for us to take a look at what exactly do we need to do to ensure we are maintaining client confidentiality. So this concludes section 1 of module 4, and as you saw, it was a very brief section. But before you move on to section 2 of this module, we would like you to answer the prompt below. And it's just you defining what does client confidentiality mean to you. Once you've submitted your response to that prompt, you may proceed to the next section.